So now I welcome everyone that started the recording. We are continuing with the kosher aspects, and today we'll study what is, in many ways, the basic of kosher rules, which is called ta'aruvot. Where there are the allowed and forbidden, and in the milk and meat, that the thing that we talked about in the past. These are quite simple regarding what you need to do. But when we come to ta'aruvot, then that is the source for how are things becoming kosher or non-kosher in the kitchen. So all the difficulties, all the problems that we have in the way our kitchen works is connected to the rules of ta'aruvot that we will study today. Ta'aruvot means mixture. So it's how things are mixed together. So we'll start from the halacha and go back to some of the sources in ta'aruvot. I will share the screen. Oh yeah. Yes. So ta'aruvot, blending, mixture. And it starts from we start from the Shulchan Aruch. I'm sorry for it. Do you hear all the noise? It's because we have a marathon running just outside my window right now. So
no, it's fine.
So I hope.
Well, we can't hear it.
Okay, so it's only disturbing me. Good. And it will be a long time because it's a lot of runners, the Copenhagen Marathon. Okay, so the Shulchan Aruch says, as you all know, but we'll read that. It is written in the Torah, "You will not cook a kid in the milk of its mother 3 times." Yes, so this rules we already came by, and as you know, there are lots of implementation to the fact that it is written 3 times. Why does it matter that it's written 3 times? Can any one of you explain why does it affect anything in our understanding of kosher rules? Why does it matter if it's written 1 time or 3 times? Yes.
Yeah, the more.
Huh?
Yes, the more times it's written, the more important it is, I guess, because God wouldn't make a mistake and have to clarify. It should be clear at first.
So the more times it's written, what do you say? It's more?
It's more important the more times it's said.
It's more important. Okay,
yeah.
So underlining that it's written a few times makes it more important than other rules. Okay, that's one possibility. Yes. Do anyone has a different explanation? Yes, Rebecca?
Maybe it's just a case of needing a reminder. Like maybe maybe it's just important to remind.
But quite weird, actually. The words are exactly the same. It says "Lo tevashel gdi b'chalev imo." Now the rule, for example, of I know, killing, that you're not allowed to kill anyone. I think that's written 3 times in the Torah. It's quite weird to put it as important if that's the case. Lars, do you have a?
Yeah, I think it's it's interpreted that one is to not cook it in the milk, and one is to do not mix it, and one is to not have to get some to get something good of it, or what you say it's 3 aspects that has been interpreted.
So Lars, now you're quoting the midrashim that study that fact, and yes, you build up to the direction that they want to lead, but it's important to understand how the Talmud works. how many of the rules that we live accordingly, how do they enter the world? And this rule, what happened is that the rabbis discussed, but why is it written 3 times? They don't. None of them go to the direction of the importance. They say, if the Torah gives it 3 times, it means we are supposed to learn something new from each one of them. One of the directions, what Lars explained, I won't go into detail of which different studies came, but there are actually a lot of different interpretations. So already in the Tosefta and the time of the Mishnah, they come with a very long list of different opinions. What is the reasoning behind having this pasuk 3 times? And some of that you will think it's absurd because it doesn't say anything remotely that looks connected to it. But one is to prohibit cooking, the other is to prohibit enjoying, and the third prohibit eating. But the words are exactly the same, all 3. So logically, you wouldn't understand why they came with a midrash. But the fact is that the rabbis learn things from itur. If something is written meyutar, that is like it's not needed because we know exactly that rule from before, it means that we need to study something from it, something new. And that's not only connected here, it's connected many other times, but this is one of the greatest examples of this way of study.
It's also the one with the with the words. That's two times, and then they said, is it with money, or is it with money and something else?
There are many examples. Yes, you're right, Lars. There's so many examples. There's so many places that you have this view that if something is written that is not, the main thing is the rabbis study if something was written and is not necessary. If it's not necessary, it means just something new. That's basically the idea behind it. But then what do they learn? That can most of us will be surprised how come they learn exactly this, and probably if we go historically, many times you ask when you study a midrash, for example, is it midrash yotzer or midrash mekayem? Is it that a midrash that creates the law, or is it a midrash that keeps the law? Which means they already know what the rules are, but they have no idea where it comes from. And then they come with an explanation from the midrash, from studying lidrosh is like to explain or learn something from the Torah that only keeps what they already keep, which means that they have a tradition, as we learn Torah LeMoshe Sinai. They learn from traditions, they learn from history, they learn from the rabbi, they learn from their parents, they learn from the previous generations what the rules are, even though they're not written explicitly in the Torah. And then they come with the explanation, where did we learn this? We learned this here or somewhere else. So let's go to the details of this one. All of what I said now is a basic idea that gives an example to other studies. But let's continue with the rule here. So the prohibition, you will not cook a kid in the milk of its mother, is written 3 times. Once for the prohibition of cooking, one for the prohibition of eating, and one for the prohibition of receiving benefit. Okay, which means what does it mean prohibit a benefit? That you can't. In Hebrew, the word is actually hana'ah. You enjoy it. You enjoy the fruit of something that is forbidden. And where we will see that, for example, am I allowed to work in McDonald's, serving but not eating? Am I allowed to, as a kosher consumer, someone who wants to keep kosher rules, am I allowed to work in McDonald's and mix meat and milk together. So what will the answer be? Siddiq, try to answer that before you say what you wanted to say.
You know me too well. No, you cannot work in McDonald's and you cannot have a restaurant that's open on Shabbos, right? If you're kosher,
because then you enjoy the mixing of milk and meat together. So it is right, though the rule of mixing milk and meat is only with kosher meat. So non-kosher meat is allowed to be mixed with, not allowed to eat it. But if you eat a cheeseburger in McDonald's, you only make the prohibition of eating non-kosher meat. You don't do the prohibition of mixing meat and milk because the meat is not kosher. And when the meat is not the prohibition of mixing basar v'chalav, meat and milk, is only regarding kosher meat. So
I am allowed to own a McDonald's if it's not kosher.
So in a way, no, don't do that. But in a way, selling that is. But if you were in Israel and the meat was kosher, then you're not even allowed to work there because then you enjoy mixing the meat and milk because all the meat in Israel is kosher. So, but that's like a side, really not relevant because of course we will never eat non-kosher meat, so the mixture is not relevant. But it's just a small fun fact. Yes, you want to say something or ask?
I guess I haven't read the Torah in Hebrew or in Aramaic, so there's many things that I know I don't know. But I guess as somebody who's fairly new to this, when you hear the word, you will not cook a kid in the milk of its mother. In my mind, it says vegan. But like, was there just some very meat-loving rabbis that decided that this is like, because like the sentence, you will not cook a kid in the milk of its mother. Why didn't they decide that, okay, we should probably not eat milk? We should probably not eat meat. Like why?
Because it only said that you're not allowed to eat it together. There's so many other places in the Torah. It says that you're allowed to eat meat.
Okay.
When you come to the book of the book that we just finished yesterday, Leviticus, it's filled with offerings and all kind of meat consumptions in many different ways. In this specifically, you have the mixture aspect that you're not allowed to mix the kid and its mother's milk, and it probably originally has some kind of a moral value that is connected to what milk represents and what meat represents. While meat represents life and feeding a baby, feeding giving life to the small born creature. Meat is the death of with that same creature. So it's. So mixing probably has some. There are some other explanations too, but that's maybe the origin. So I have no problem going with vegan. So I'm vegetarian, but not vegan yet, but working on it.
It's just that the sentence is so emotionally loaded when you say a kid in the milk of its mother that I guess sometimes us that are studying this, we've had these discussions behind these sessions and we don't know. So
no, but I agree. I think this sentence is a good reminder, at least, that the meat we eat had a mother. I think even that is a good thing to remember, that the meat we eat had a mother and who probably loved him and wanted all the best for him. So it's if you want me to, don't take me there, because my father would be angry with me, because my father insists that you all have to eat meat because you need to learn the rule. You're allowed to become vegetarian, but those of you who are in conversion process, you're allowed to become vegetarian, but only after you finish your conversion classes, because it's important to learn the rules and implement them in your kitchen. So. So with that principle discussion we'll take later. Good. So that's different prohibitions. There's so many details to this, so I'm not. There's no way that we can cover all the rules. I can tell you that when I studied the rules of taruvot, of mixtures, it took me about, I think, 4 or 5 months studying all day. So it's a very long and complicated. This is a source of kosher rules, so it's really complicated. Okay, so the prohibition of eating is presented in the language of cooking to say that there is no prohibition from the Torah unless it is in a manner of cooking. But rabbinically, it is forbidden in every way, the mixture. Okay, so it's important. This is very important. We have this difference between the Oraita and the Rabbanan. Yes, we talked about it the last times I met with you, and we need these distinctions all the time, because the difference between something that is forbidden from the Oraita, from the Torah, and something that's forbidden from the rabbis, from the Rabbanan. What is the main difference? Let's see if you remember that. Why is it relevant for us to know if a rule comes from the Torah or from the rabbis? No, who's brave enough to remember? Yes, Justin?
If we are in doubt, if we should do something, then
so what's the
right, then we should, for example, repeat it or do it.
Yeah. So if we, or here, for example, we already see that in a matter of mixing meat and milk, if we will be unsure, something will be in doubt. We don't know. So, for example, if it was mixed without cooking, maybe it's a different rule than if we are not sure if there was a mixture or not, for example. So this will be relevant in practical aspect. The doubt is critical to all these rules of taruvot, of mixtures. If it's from the rabbi, then okay. Yeah, all meat and milk that are not forbidden from the Torah are permitted to benefit from. This is what I mentioned before. So if it's not something that that is not yes, so a mixture that is not forbidden from the Torah because it's not something kosher, then it's permitted to benefit. And that's the difference that they come in. Okay, now the law only applies with meat from a pure kosher animal, from a pure animal, and milk from a pure animal. But meat of a pure animal in milk that is impure, or meat from an impure animal in pure milk is permitted to cook and benefit from it. Okay, so cheeseburger in regular McDonald's in Denmark is permitted not to eat, but permitted to enjoy. As we said, you're permitted to cook and to benefit. Meat of a wild animal and of a fowl, even in milk, which is pure, is permitted to cook and benefit from it. And even eating, it's mean, for example, if you have let's say you have a Airbnb or I don't know, a hotel, and you're supposed to serve some, it would have different aspects if it's in the world like ours, that we have connection to non-Jews, and if we work in these branches, some of you might work in I don't know, in supermarkets or places like that, and then selling these things will be allowed because you're allowed to benefit, even though you're not allowed to eat. Fish and grasshoppers are not prohibited with milk, even rabbinically. Okay, this is was a part of the, and as you know, Ashkenazi also mix fish and milk, so you're allowed to eat, use butter and cream and all of that, eating fish, but there's a difference against Sephardi. Rema says we make milk from an almond and place bird meat in it. Since milk and bird meat is only rabbinically forbidden. But with meat from a domesticated animal, place almonds next to the milk so that people don't misunderstand. This is, as we said above in Shabbat. So this is a separate rule that it's still in the world of meat and milk, but if you put almond milk or soya milk, or like, think of the world today that we mix these things all the time, right? It's so the coconut milk or such. So they say originally, if you were supposed to put almonds next to the mixture to underline that this comes from almond milk and not real milk. There are many answers on that, and this is not the topic of our shiur, so I won't go in the depth of that. But that is the principle. Okay, now when we talk,
can I have a question just to clear what you say?
Yes.
Make more clear why meat from animals it's okay, but meat and milk it's not okay, but milk and chicken it's okay. It's animal.
No. This talks about almond milk from nature.
No. Sorry. Not it's okay. Why it's not okay? Because it say goat, doesn't say chicken. So why you include everything but not fish, for example? Meat or fish?
Where do you see a goat?
Okay. All the animals that live on the land.
As I read here, the Shulchan Aruch is quotes from the Talmud. Fish and grasshoppers are not part of this, because I can give an example.
Why they come to this?
The reasoning, as you probably already learned, there were at the beginning mixing chicken with milk, right? You learned that there were rabbis who permitted it originally, not anymore, but like 2,000 years ago, there was a few rabbis in the Mishnah time that mixed and milk. And then this rule of that it is written in the Torah, you will not cook a kid in the milk of its mother, came to, as I said, there were many different explanations why it's written 3 times. One of these explanations said it was to add not only behemah, but also chicken and chaya. One of the explanations why it's 3 times was to add chicken to the things that are forbidden. But what they didn't add fish and grasshoppers. So they added chicken and chaya. Chaya is like tzvi ve'yal, how do you call it? Reindeer, deers, different kind of reindeers and such. These are also prohibited of mixing because the Midrash added them. The Midrash said it's not allowed. It's written 3 times to give these 3 categories of animals, but it didn't include fish and grasshoppers. That are grasshoppers. Yemenites, Jews, for example, eat them until today. Most of the Jews don't eat them anymore because we don't have a tradition of how to eat it. But Yemenite Jews still do, and they say it tastes quite nice. I don't know. I've never tried. But the grasshoppers that are the allowed grasshoppers, not every kind of grasshopper, but those that are allowed, and fish are not part of this ruling because it's not part of the Midrash that added the different categories. Is it an answer? Is this what you meant?
Not convincing me.
Not convincing?
3 times it say don't eat milk in a goat. Don't eat milk in a goat. They didn't say nothing about chicken, about other animals. So why to add something that it doesn't mean?
I said, and then you need to go fly 2,000 years back, discuss with the rabbis who made this study. As we say in our tradition, the Torah Shebe'al Peh is also Torah Moshe Sinai. The oral Torah is also part of it's not wrong or right explanation. This is part of believing in the oral Torah. So if we
didn't you say that 2,000 years ago it was allowed?
No, I said there was a rabbi at the time that said it was allowed, but most of the rabbis were against and said it's not allowed. It means there was a discussion, but the discussion was closed. And after that rabbi, no one else said that anymore, and it's already the Talmud time. There was no debate about it. Debates are part of the Torah Sheba'al Peh. That's if you came to the last week to the Beit Midrash, you will see how much the debate is the heart of the Jewish studies, and it's part of understanding and explaining the rules. But this is theory, and we want the practical aspects in the rules of Ta'aruvot. So I'm sorry, but I will have to continue here. Okay, can anyone else read, because my throat is beginning to be tired?
I can, from the Mishnah, Pulin 7. 4.
Yes, please.
Yes, if a thigh was cooked together with a sciatic nerve and there was enough as to impart a flavor, it is forbidden. How does one measure this? As it were meat cooked with turnips. Okay, sorry, as if it were meat cooked with turnips. A sciatic nerve which has cooked with another permitted nerves, it can still be recognized if imparts a flavor, but it cannot no longer be recognized when they are all forbidden. And the broth, if it imparts a flavor. And so it is with a piece of nevela, or a piece of unclean fish that was cooked together with one piece of flesh. It can still be recognized, then all are prohibited if it imparts a flavor. But if it can no longer be recognized, then they are all forbidden. And the broth is prohibited if the sciatic nerve imparts a flavor.
Okay, so you all understand everything, right? I don't need to explain, or maybe I do. Now this is critical. This is if a thigh was cooked together with a sciatic nerve. What is a sciatic nerve? I'm not sure if I even say it correctly. What is this nerve? Yes, Mia?
Well, so it's the nerve that is not permitted to eat.
Yes. Why is not permitted to eat?
So it comes from the story where Yaakov battles an angel and he's given this nerve.
Yeah, it says that it touches that nerve. No, it's not clear in the story what exactly happened, but it has an effect on how Yaakov then walks, how he's able to walk afterwards. And this is something we don't eat. All the meat lovers, this is the reason that kosher meat can be bad many times, because people avoid, it's too complicated to take it out. So in many places, you used to just give all the back part of the cow to non-Jews, and they only took the front. But as those of you who love meat know that the best part of the meat is the back. So it's it influences the taste of kosher meat. But the question here is, now we have something that is not allowed. It's not allowed. It's not kosher. There's a sciatic nerve, and it was cooked together with a thigh. That is allowed. Okay, and then the question: is it allowed to eat them or not? And the Mishnah doesn't just say automatically, no, it's not allowed. What does the Mishnah say? That it's a question of, did it impart a flavor? If the Gida Nashev, this nerve, gave flavor to the whole dish, because of course the thigh is much larger than the nerve, and eating the nerves itself is not allowed. But the question is, the question is, did it give taste to the? Did it change the taste of the thigh? Okay, and then there's talk about the way to measure it. That they compare it to something else. That if it's just as you cooked meat with something that is not meat, that it needs to have the same effect on the taste as if you cook the meat together with something that is not meat. Turnips. I have no idea what it's called. Lefet in Hebrew. I don't know if you know it or not, but it's some kind of vegetable from the ground. And then they come to the next rule. If a side cooked together with a sciatic nerve, and there was enough to impart a flavor, sciatic nerve was cooked with the other permitted nerves, if it can still be recognized. Now they talk about what's the difference between these two rules. The first rule was a nerve in mixtures of something else. Min b'shei nomino. It's had a nerve and a thigh. They're not the same thing, right? But if you cook a nerve together with other nerves, what will be the problem? What will be the problem if you cook a nerve with the other nerves?
The flavor?
Exactly, you won't be able to recognize the flavor because it's nerves are not prohibited, but you won't be able to go because there's no difference. Yeah, so if you can distinguish it with a, if you can distinguish it, it's different. Then it depends on if it gave taste or not. If not, they are all forbidden. They're all forbidden, and the sources depend on does it have flavor of the nerve. Now, they had another rule, and so it is with the piece of nevela. What is nevela? Nevela is a dead animal. We call nevela any kosher animal that is not slaughtered according to Jewish law. Right, as soon as it was slaughtered in a wrong method or just die, then it is nevela. It's something that you're not allowed to eat. But the problem is that you can't distinguish, right? There's no, if I'll take a piece of meat from the kosher shop and cook it together with meat from the regular supermarket, right? These two kind of meat that comes from the same kind of animal have the same taste, right? So it's the same rule. So the difference here is, do you mix things of different origins? Are you then allowed to eat it? It depends on the taste. Don't worry, you're not supposed, in general, you're not supposed to taste it to find out. There are categories. How do taste come through? So these are the rules that we will go to. And you probably already learned. So all these things, if you can recognize them, if you can see the difference between the kosher piece and the non-kosher piece, then it depends on the taste. If you can't distinguish between the kosher source and the non-kosher source, then it's all forbidden when it was cooked together. Okay, it depends on the effect on the taste. So the most important part that we need to learn already here, that there is a matter of taste, because this is an important aspect when you come to question of mixtures, that there's a question of taste. Can you taste the non-kosher part when you eat it? If you can't taste it at all, if it had no effect, then it's permitted to eat it. It's not permitted to cook it. You can't add something to the, you can't just take something that won't affect the taste and pour it into your kosher dish. If it's something happened, then you ask yourself, am I allowed to eat what was cooked? It's not automatically, and this is very important. It's not automatically forbidden. We will think that the non-kosher that was mixed in would be automatically forbidden. And no, the Mishnah and the Gemara here come and say, no, it is not, it's a matter of taste. Okay, now there's a different source, and it's important why they're different. When you come to Talmud Gittin, it says according, by Torah law, the forbidden substance is nullified if its ratio in the mixture is not more than 1:2. Okay? Nullified. It disappears. You have, now let's take, we'll make a theoretical situation. You have, you're in an event, there are, you went to friends, right? And you brought some kosher wine with you, and I know, let's say it was white wine. No, it doesn't, it's not good enough, but you can see the difference. You can taste the difference. Let's give an example of thing that tastes the same. You went to the butcher, pieces of goulash, and then in some mystical way, someone you went next to a non-kosher butcher, and in a piece of non-kosher goulash. I have no idea how it happened. Okay, so don't ask me how, but stay with the theory. Okay, or you found, you found fresh tufa. It will be actually so. There are 3 pieces of meat. 2 are kosher and 1 is not kosher. You didn't cook them, okay? They're just 3 pieces in front of you. But you don't know which one is kosher and which is not kosher. What do you do? What do you do? Anyone wants to try to say, what do you do?
You can eat them.
What is it? Say it again?
You can, so I'm a little bit unsure about the 1 and 2 because that sentence doesn't, so it's 1/3.
The ratio,
right?
I think there was 1 non-kosher and 2 kosher. That's the ratio.
Then you can eat it, right? Because you can eat it because you shouldn't throw it away. And it doesn't make any sense because I heard you talk about it before, and that's the only reason why I'm coming up with this crazy theory that and somebody placed the third meat on the table. I have 2 kosher meats. There's 1 and it's not kosher. They look exactly the same. The packaging is the same. I have no clue of figuring it out. Normally, you would think you should throw them all away, but you shouldn't throw them away because it shouldn't be more expensive to be a Jew. So you can actually eat it. And I don't know where it comes from, but
this is exactly where it comes from, because the Torah says the forbidden substance is nullified if its ratio in the mixture is not more than 1:2.
But couldn't you be sneaky? Couldn't you, this is where the sneak comes in. Couldn't you be like, oh, how convenient?
No, you can't, because you're not allowed to mix it.
We just did.
You're not allowed to mix it. You're allowed to, if it happened, the mixture happened, all the rules that we talk about today is of something that happened. It's not something that you do. I can give an example where it will be relevant. For example, if in theory, if you was allowed to make the mix, then you could, I don't know, add add some flavoring, right? In theory, but it's not, because now we talk a mixture, and what's very important here is a mixture of yavesh beyavesh. These things are not cooked together. If we put these three together in a pot, what will the rule be? Just like as we read before. If you can't distinguish, right, then the whole thing is not permitted. So if you mix it in a pot, then it's a problem, because the non-kosher will give taste to the kosher.
So if one is goulash and one is a beautiful thick non-kosher steak, it's not applied. But if I absolutely
because then you can distinguish what is what.
Yeah.
They're not it's not what you call min bemino. It's not the same kind and the same kind. If you can distinguish, then there's no question. But what happens if you have the mixture? And then I'm not sure if I have this. So yeah, I have the sources later. Yes, Rebecca.
No, I accidentally pressed.
Okay.
Answered my question already.
Okay, so this is mixture of things that are dry, or it doesn't mean dry like dry, but they're not cooked. They're not in a mixture. Then you have in Talmud Chulin a different type of mixture, and the sages said, you can see in Talmud Chulin, 60. Therefore, a type with not its type, right? You understand when I say type and not its type means if the pieces are similar, of similar origin, it's the same kind of food, but one is kosher and one is not kosher. This is what we call min b'sheinomino. Type with its type, it's the same thing. Type with not its type, min b'sheinomino, is different thing. Like a steak piece that looks very different, and or completely different, like a thigh and a nerve, right? That's completely different, looks different. Therefore, a type with not its type, when permitted on tasting, when forbidden on cook, and a type with its type, where one cannot a certain flavor, or a type with not its type, when forbidden, where there is no cook, in 60. What is this cook? Cook is like a chef, right? Someone who is an expert. How do you distinguish what mixture will be allowed and not allowed? Here comes the word that probably some of you already know, batel b'shishim, that something is nullified in 60. What's the situation here? Now we talk about a cooked dish, where the things were mixed, right? And the flavors are mixed. So a type with something that is not its type, like if I take the example from the beginning, the thigh and the nerve, and the nerve that is not forbidden. Then you need, it depends on the taste. And the amount, the question is, does it have a taste? Did it have any effect on the thigh? And how will you check the, how will you check the taste? With a cook, tasting it, someone who we are not chefs that are that can feel the differences between taste. But as you know, good chefs, good cooks, because they can find out when they eat something which other things are mixed. They can tell us. They can tell us if there is a different of tastes. And of course, we talk now about a non-kosher cook, someone who's good with the taste and can tell you that this is there's no taste. It tastes completely as regular thigh that doesn't have any other things. And a type with its type, right, where one cannot a certain flavor, you can't check the flavor, or a type with not a type when forbidden, where there's no cook. Okay, so there's no one we can ask. So these two situations, either two kinds that are exactly the same, so you can't distinguish flavor, or two different types, but there's no one, there's not a non-Jew cook that can taste and tell us if there was a mixture of taste or not. Then in 60, what does it mean? If the amount that was mixed in was less than 1 in 60, then it's allowed. Everyone got it? Computer.
How do you know whether something is less than 60? Because the 1/3 kind of makes sense, but like kind of. But 1 in 60, how would you know? Maybe it's 1 in 55.
I'll give you an example. Let's say that you have some you wanted to add coconut milk to a dish, and then by mistake you took a glass of milk that was next to you. You wanted to drink it, and in mistake you took that glass instead of the coconut milk and poured it in, and you said, "Oh no, what did I do?" Then you will know more or less the amount of the milk that was in the glass, right? And you know how big the dish is. Then you can make the measurements and say how much is it? Is it more than 1 of 60 in the dish or not? That could happen. I remember a situation that things like that happened, that people took, for example, here I give another example. You're supposed to add no, that's a bad example because of the different opinions about flavorings. If let's say you go and cook in your in your at your parents, and you bring your own kosher thing, but then something happened and you took something from them. You know more or less how much you put in. You took a specific ingredient that is not kosher and put it in, and you had your kosher with you, but you put it in by mistake the part that was at your parents. Then you know how much you put in. I had a situation, someone I know that I know of that by mistake a whole in a huge it was a huge restaurant, there was an event, and by mistake a whole bag of milk fell in the dish, and then they called the rabbi to say, what do we do now? And they start doing measurement how much percent of the milk in a milk bag of 1 liter, how much is actually milk. It's actually less than a full liter, and they make the whole measurement, and it was allowed at the end. So these situations can happen. Yes, Lars?
I have 2 questions. The first one is it possible to make it if you have a soup and you have a forbidden amount, but not very far from a 60? Is it possible to make it not forbidden by have more just water in it or something like that?
Exactly. So that is not allowed. Why? Because if it has less than 60, the whole thing becomes non-kosher. And then the amount of non-kosher that you have, that is the whole thing. It's not anymore, because it changed the taste of the whole dish. So you can't add to go up to 60, because the whole thing became non-kosher. I can give another example that happened to, remember, I had an aunt that with Pesach rules. These are very easy to apply. That she took the non-kosher to Pesach soup powder. And then called half an hour before Pesach, she said, "Are you the non-kosher? What do I do?" It wasn't non-kosher to Pesach, and she called my father. I actually think that if she called another rabbi, maybe he would have permitted it. But people also sometimes they need also to get a no. I learned it many times. People think I say too much yes, and I need to say a no once in a while. So, so in theory, there you can have also the same discussion. If the whole thing is chametz, if the whole thing is chametz, it had also an effect on that. So these things can definitely happen. So what you need to remember is this number 60.
Okay.
Unfortunately, yeah.
The other question is if it's okay because it's 60 or less, and then you make a mistake one more time with something else,
then it doesn't matter. Okay, so here comes another rule. I didn't go to all the details, but you actually have, it's a great example. You have a rule exactly on this on what you said. Let's say that you have a carton of milk above your stove. I have no idea why you put the carton of milk, but you did that. And the carton of milk has a little hole, so it drops a drop after another. Right? This is with your example, right? So the mixture adds a drop every time, and then the Talmud says, "Kama kama batil." The second the first touched the mixture, it became part of the mixture, and if it's not enough, if it is less than 1 in 60, which will be probably because only one drop of milk won't be a mix of all of it. So then it's allowed, even though if you take together all the amount of drops that came in, and it will be more than 60, the whole carton of milk came in the pot, but because it came one after the other, then it's annulled in the. I dare you to eat it if you keep kosher. I don't believe anyone will eat it, but in principle, the rules is that it's allowed because every one of the drop disappeared as one of 60.
A question, two questions.
Yes.
One, does you need to warn the people that eat it that it happened to you? And the second one, it's what about cheese? Does it mean that all the cheese is allowed now? Because it's much less than 1 to 60. To
what
make
do you
a
mean?
cheese. To make a cheese with the stomach of animal.
Okay, but then we have rules of we have. First of all, you're not allowed to do it. That's one. If something has to be done in this way, then it's not allowed. You're not allowed to mix 1 of 60. Lechatchila. This is the difference between lechatchila and b'diavad. You're not allowed to mix 1 in 60 if it's less to add. Okay, so that's one aspect. Now the cheese, there's a different rule that's called ma'amid. If the part that is not, it's not only about the part, but it's necessary to raise it's a complete different rule to make the cheese hard, so it's necessary to the process, the non-kosher element, then it's not allowed. Here we talk about a simple mixture, something that happened by mistake. It's not something that is needed for the product. So, and in the example you bring, it's needed for the cheese to be set in stomach, right? So it's not, so ma'amid has a whole different category. It's important that you also, it's a good question, Arad, thank you, because it means, don't think that you can just automatically apply the numbers here to every situation. I would urge you, ask, okay, whenever. Don't just throw away. If you came to a situation, don't just throw away. Ask the rabbi, what should I do? I have many times that people have these mixtures. Then they say, but they were put together. And then the first thing I asked when people tell me, for example, that they put, I don't know, it's not an example here of mixture, but they put a schnitzel on, like they put something in the wrong utilities. This is what happened the most, right? That you mix, you took a spoon and mix, you took a meat spoon and mixed something, and mixed something. My first question would be, was it hot? Was it something that was cooked? Because if it's not hot, then there's no mixture. And there are many other explanations. The best is to ask, as you did now. So no, cheeses are not allowed. Cheeses are not even allowed if they're made from kosher because of the ruling that says in general. But that's a different rule to another time.
And does you need to warn people? Like, I make a mistake, okay, but then I give it to guests. I need to say to them, sorry, but just that you know that it was a mistake, but it's allowed. Like if it's...
I actually remember someone writing this question to a rabbi. I read someone who asked that, and the rabbi told him, don't do it. He said it's allowed, and if you bring yourself to a situation that if no one will care and it won't have any effect, so fine. But he said don't do it if in a matter it will put a problem between you and them personally or something that, then you're not allowed. You're allowed not to tell if you don't need to. It's I will leave it up to you. Maybe you will think that even though I can eat it, most of the people, as I said, for these things will choose not to eat. Like even though it can be permitted, they will choose not to eat. Okay, I want to. We already need to finish, but I want to come to the conclusion, the practical aspect in these mixtures and regarding taste, because the taste is, as we said, was crucial to the things. So someone can read the last Shulchan Aruch, and we'll finish with this.
I can read.
Yes, thank you.
So a pot in which meat was cooked, one may not cook in it milk. And if one cooked milk in it within 24 hours, it is forbidden on account of giving taste. And one needs to measure for negation by 60 against the entire pot. Okay,
you understood? So you made something in a milk meal. I'll take the goulash example. You made goulash in a chalavit pot, in a milk pot. Then you need to measure the amount of taste that could have come in the goulash. If the amount of the goulash is greater than the 60 that could come from the pot itself, then you're allowed to eat the goulash. Yes.
But if it's sat in it for 24 hours before one cooked in it, it is in case of giving detrimental taste, and the food cooked in it is permitted, but the pot is forbidden to cook in either meat or dairy.
Okay, you understood that? So the same situation, but the pot wasn't used in 24 hours. So then it's no doubt, because the taste that is back in the pot is not good taste. Then it's a bad taste. If it affects it, we don't consider it as effect of taste. Then the mixture of the milk in it, it won't be, and you don't even need to measure. But the pot itself becomes non-kosher because taste of meat and taste of milk was mixed in the pot. Yes, continue.
Note, but other things are permitted, and the rule for a pot lid is like the rule for the pot itself. And there are those who are more stringent for the lids, saying that even when it isn't ben yomo, meaning
ben yomo mean you was used the same day.
Yeah, its rule is like it was ben yomo.
That's a different opinion than regarding the lid.
And so they act in a few places. And this is how I behave according to the custom, and it is a restriction without reason.
It's wonderful to see this, right? He admits there's a restriction without reason.
And in any event, in a place where this is some reason,
When there is some reason,
like it is a Shabbat need or potential loss, there is reason to permit the cooked food if the lid is not ben yomo, like the pot itself. And if they took a boiling hot lid from a meat pot and put it on a milk pot, and if both of them are hot, both of them are forbidden if there is food in the pot of milk and meat. And if the lid is cold and the pot is hot, still both of them are forbidden if it began to sweat under the lid, for the bottom dominates. And if the lid is hot and the pot is cold, everything is permitted, just the food requires taking a clipper. If it is possible to take a clipper, and
klipa is a like just take, if there's some kind of something that touched that could affect, you can just, for example, I know something that touched bread that was not kosher, then you can just cut a piece, the piece where it touched and had an effect, you can just cut the piece and eat the rest. You don't have to say the whole bread is now not. If you can take a like a klipa is a peel. Like if you can peel off a part, then it's allowed. Now, Mia will finish here. The main thing, the reason also I want to bring it is to show you how complicated it is. Okay, and it's then you can discuss, well, the lid like this, is it a lid or is it a pot? The opinion that lid is. There are opinions that take the lid as different ruling than the pot. There are other opinions that take. So you can see how complicated it is, and this underlines the fact that you should ask a rabbi when a situation occurs. The important part that I want you to learn today is the three aspects. One is noten tam, that what really is interesting for us is the question of taste. And how do we measure taste? Either by someone who can check, a non-Jew that can taste and tell us there is no effect of taste, or if we don't have someone to taste it, then what? I need to check that you listen. Something like that, a matter of taste. How will we define whether did it give taste or not? How will we define if we don't know, if we can't taste it? Did you listen at all today? 60. If it's less than 60 parts, then it didn't give taste. That's a rule. It didn't give taste if it's less than 60. What you should know, no, I'll just finish with that because I don't want to make you even more confused. So taste will be a matter of 60. If a mixture is of yavesh biyavesh, so the mixture didn't happen in a pot, then you are allowed. The reasoning behind it, we didn't come into that, but we don't have more time. But there's either yavesh biyavesh when it's not cooked, when it's just pieces, then it's enough if it's only 1-to-2 ratio. So 60 taste and 1-to-2 ratio. These are the elements. Continue read. It is very complicated, and we will see you soon. So have a great Sunday, and all the best.
You too.
Thank you. Shabbat
You in Stockholm next week, those who go to play for PGT.
Oh yeah.
Mainly those with the kids that are the right ages.
Shabbat tov.
All the best.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Shabbat tov.